Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SB Digital Summit, CIS. Firstly, thank you to all the team at SBC for another outstanding digital edition. Lots of super content and sessions affecting the industry. So, dial in, get involved, participate. Today's session is 60 minutes. The session's entitled, How Did 2020 Change the Industry? In fact, it seems only like yesterday for many of us that we were attending land-based events. So how quickly things can change with the Black Swan event of COVID-19. It's really upended everything in terms of our personal working patterns and obviously our business patterns. So today's session is looking into the impact on business operations, consumer trends, and in particular focus the CIS region across the iGaming ecosystem. I'm joined by an exceptional team of experts and individuals, thought leaders indeed, operational experts in their respective fields. And what I would like to do to start off is actually have the panel introduce themselves to all our listeners online, which there's several thousand. And just let's jump into the conversation after that. So who would like to go first with their quick introduction?
I'll guess ladies first.
Yes, Micah.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. And I represent Georgia, the casino Ajara, which would be one of the biggest casinos in this country, who is operating the longest on the market, which would be 23 years now. And I joined the team 10 years ago as a chief marketing officer. So I'll present you Georgia. Thank you.
Thanks, Micah.
I guess I can do myself now, if I can go. Alex, go. Well.
I can go next. So my name is Alex Yaroshenko. I'm CEO of Bet Bazaar. We're based in Kiev, Ukraine, and I've been on this role for the past 2 years, overall in industry for the past 8 years. We represent the supplier here, so we will have different angles of topic today, and I will try to cover the one from the supplier side.
Fabulous.
Thanks.
Marcus?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus. I've been in the industry for the last 10 years. I'm now the Chief Marketing Officer for Clever Advertising. We are a performance-based marketing company, and we do media buying, basically, and we are heavily invested in the CIS area.
Fabulous. Well
Hi, my name is Vedran. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to speak with all of your guests today. I'm representing PIN project, and it's Lotto Instant Win brand. So I also come as a supplier to discuss today's topic. And I've been working in gaming for the past basically over 10 years, and for PIN project the last 6 years running their operations.
Fabulous, thank you. Dennis?
Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies. I'm representing the company called NLabs. We're the biggest online operator in the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, roughly having like 25% on the market there. Next year, we're planning to enter Belarus and Ukraine. That's where we are talking a lot about the CIS markets. Myself, I'm in industry a bit more than 15 years, and the past 6 years here in NLabs, now as a chief operating officer.
Fabulous. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have what can only be defined as an unbelievable year. 2020, the pandemic is sadly, taken lots of lives. But in relation to the iGaming ecosystem, I just wanted to open the first question. What has the impact been on your sort of day-to-day business operations? Who would like to share that? Has it been, has there been an uptick in business. We've seen a lot of reports that during various lockdowns in particular countries, that there's been an uptick in online gambling participation. There's a lot of M&A activity going on as well. So just generally keen to hear from a CIS perspective, how the pandemic has affected, day-to-day operations since the start of the year. Who would like to take that?
I can start.
I can start.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. Yeah, I would mention we had, like, let's say 3 different stages of how COVID affected the business and the overall operations. Everything started with the sports, as in, like, for most of the betting operators, we lost like one part of the sports events, then we lost another part, and then we lost, like, I would say like 90% of the top events. Yeah, and that's like heavily affected our betting turnover and revenues. Then the second stage came with the COVID regulation, where our offline business was closed, and then as a part of the COVID regulation in Latvia, our even online license was suspended for 2 months. Then we lost 100% of our business there. Like, we can talk a lot about the reasons of this decision. Like, it was more like political/populistic. But yeah, when the state of emergency was canceled, we got our license back, and with the small steps, like, we are back on track with the pre-COVID volumes. And the third stage, that in general, in many markets in Latvia and Lithuania specifically, a lot of things and a lot of talks happened about the responsible gaming, responsible advertising, and the communications which going from the operators and the government and politicians. They asked us to stay, like, within this legal environment of advertising and reduce the volumes and keep it very simple and very, like, calm until the situation in the country will be, like, back to the previous. Yeah, so there was a lot of discussions and about a lot of very, very tough dialogue between us and the regulator and the politician about how responsible we have to be during this interesting period in the industry and an overall economy.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good overview. Anyone else in particular?
I can pick up a little bit from there, because Dennis mentioned, like, actually a topic that we are very much involved to. So you mentioned the first stage was like 90% of the loss of all events, and you can actually nothing do with this. But what we do in terms of business is, like, we try to keep it up. So we are creator of the contents, while there is no any other contents. And we create within Ukraine, Kiev, and other cities, we create, like, our esports competition and sports competition to actually, well, we started before COVID, but while COVID, it was very, very high demand product. And we tried to fill the need for such type of content to give the live betting events, to bring it to keep it on a certain level. So what we do, we create e-football, like FIFA events, e-basketball, NBA events, 2K, the same for MMA, NHL. And in the real sports, we handle, like, 2 tournaments in table tennis and in regular tennis. So this, like, names, I believe it's now worldwide known. It's Sietka Cup and Esports Battle. Pretty much all bookmakers were using it or still using it in their live offering. So for us, I mean, I guess it's probably will be the only one success story on the panel that COVID brings a growth to a company. But
that's not true. That's not true. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. That's what I'm about to change. It's not. It's always bringing change. So
yes,
please go on.
Yeah.
Tell your story.
Yeah. Well, there are some suppliers, and definitely esports comes into that section, as well as our games, because we offer live betting on numbers. while usually live content is dependent on on people and are run from real studios. We were able to run the entire operation even in complete lockdown, as our machines that draw the balls, which we develop ourselves, are fully automated. So we were able to run completely in full lockdown as well. But besides that, we were in same position as you with esports, which is an emerging, let's say, vertical. The same goes with us, because we're quite unique fixed odds betting on numbers, which is also a niche product. And in lack of the basic verticals such as sports, live casino, or other, all the operators with whom we've already started negotiating have come to us in times of complete lockdowns and the beginnings of all the COVID problems, in order to complete the integration and launch our product. So we were actually in a very good position for the past 7 or 8 months. We're actually shortlisted for the best live streaming product for the SBC, and one of the requests for being shortlisted, at least, was the success in the past year. So we were very lucky as well. And I hope that operators, when the COVID problem is fixed, understand the advantage of variety in their business. And that's what actually we are bringing into the market. You with esports as an emerging thing, we as the lottery supplier as a niche product. And that's what variety actually helps you keep the homeostasis in events which are unpredictable. Like Mark said, like a black swan event, the only variety can help you push through successfully, in my opinion.
Okay. Marcus,
one thing that was amazing on COVID is we had a beginning, a middle, and an end period on the first lockdown. Of course, the business, at least on our end, the business took a huge hit during March and April. And then when I think it was the Bundesliga that opened, there was the first football league to open, everything went nuts. What I mean is the numbers were double, triple of what they were during the first quarter of the year. And that has been consistent since then, even though that during that period of lockdown, we only had table tennis, esports, virtuals, and Nicaraguan and Belarus. I think it was Belarus, if I'm not mistaken. Football
and hockey. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first period when the Bundesliga started. Everything went crazy, and I think we are still ramping up on that momentum, even though that the lockdown gave a step back, and now at least in Europe, we are doing a step forward, probably thinking about doing lockdown again. The online, at least online gaming, in our perspective, was very. I will not say we prosper, but I think we did prosper from this old strategy. But the numbers on our acquisition at our end since the lockdown has been up, and up. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, I would rather it be the other way. But at least at our end, COVID-19 really helped to ramp the numbers up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So really, what we're seeing is we're witnessing a shift in player behaviour from traditional, if you like, live sports in the first lockdown or 1.0 to virtual sports, esports. Are we seeing any changes in the player behaviour with those new products coming to the fore when live sport isn't available? Are we seeing anything in terms of average bet size? Is there anything that the panel can share in that regards? some insights on that shifting behaviour from traditional live sports to virtual or esports.
This will be interesting to hear from Dennis, because he represents like a company which actually can see. I can only say for some of my clients, but Dennis, don't you mind to share this information from your end?
Yeah, sure. As already was mentioned, yeah, we faced like incredible amount of bets and huge volumes on table tennis during the lockdown. But then, like now, we see that more or less, yeah, the numbers are back to the previous top, let's say, 4 sports, which are football, ice hockey in our region, tennis, and the basketball as they are. Yeah, the only thing that a bit like these timelines what we had before, they a bit changed. Yeah, now we're not having and we will not have NHL till the end of the year. The NBA season is again, it's a bit postponed. So the thing how we work and how we planned our campaigns and our activities through the year, this agenda is a bit changed. But yeah, the only thing that we didn't see a strong increase in esports. I mean, like on the bets on the esports like CS:GO, Dota, and so on. Yeah, there was some changes during the lockdown, but then we don't see this, that the customers kept their their habits after the lockdown finished.
Right. Okay.
I can continue with this because I believe that we have a little bit expertise in here. From a different angles and from a different clients, we can see that definitely this pandemic and lockdown creates new betting habits, which is, of course, including betting on esports. But Dennis, you mentioned right, which is the classic esports like CS:GO, Dota, League of Legends, stuff like that. They are only still mainly interesting for those auditory, which they was interesting before. So like millennials, Gen Z, people who understand the game, people who play themselves, they still bet, and they probably just bet a little bit more just because they stayed home. But other auditory, which like to bet on sports, this is different. They will never go and play a game they don't understand. That's why this e-FIFA, e-NBA, e-NHL came very handful, because they see the game, they understand it's real people playing, they can see statistics behind real people, they can go on the website, check it, and hear what they feel they need for betting on the real sports. And it even has some hidden advantages, because a real football is 90 minutes, FIFA is 10 minutes, right? They can bet more. This we touch a little bit topic of responsible gaming, but I understand that we'll have it later. So from different information from my clients, we can see that in February, generally, table tennis was on the top 5, FIFA was on the top 10 somewhere. In the March, we can see table tennis on top 3 always, and FIFA on top 4, top 5. So this is the statistic that we have from our clients, and this has brought huge growth. Now, of course, we see a drawback, but it's not completely people forget about it. No, they still keep in these habits. So this is what I can see from perspective of our product.
I guess I can continue from a land-based perspective from here, if that's...
Yes, please.
Yeah, so basically, unlike my co-speakers, the situation is not very optimistic for land-based casinos. First of all, I would like to say that Casino Ajara is absolutely a different company than Ajara Bet, which is online gaming. So definitely how local casinos operate is that if we take statistically, like Batumi region, around 85% are based on tourists, their guests. And if we take local market in Tbilisi, more than 50% our guests are tourists, and overall average, because Casino Ajara has been longest on the market and we are quite popular among locals. So we can say we are the leaders among locals. But if we take average, so our entire land-based casinos are based on tourists, which is 70% of tourists compared to 30% of locals. And with the money-wise as well, the locals are not the one that you can operate on. So basically, we don't see this scenario very optimistic here, because we've been closed since March, and we try to have different meetings with government officials. We tried to regulate, we tried to keep everything possible as long as they would let us open, but government never came back to us, and we have absolutely no understanding what will be with the market. And especially most of our guests who gamble are the regions like, let's say, Iran, Kuwait, Azerbaijan, countries where gambling is prohibited. So the tourists were from those countries who would come here. And now we don't know with the COVID situation how the tourist level will going to continue, what will be the behavior, what will be their economical situation to afford to come and gamble here. So our perspective is not very optimistic, unlike online bettings and online gaming.
So Micah, just on the land-based perspective, that's a very good viewpoint from Georgia. So I just wanted to touch very quickly on it because we're just getting a couple of questions in from our listeners. In terms of communicating with your customers, what are you doing? I know you've mentioned where they come from, but is there regular communication with them to make sure they're aware of the situation, that the trading is still very much diminished, it's under government responsibility? So what are you doing from a sort of player experience perspective, just in case there is a change in legislation or government opinion, and suddenly they say, tomorrow you guys can operate, open the doors?
Yeah, so basically what happened after the lockdown, one good thing that happened, the Georgian local casinos, they decided to create the association, land-based casinos, that were not presented before. So the heads of those associations tried to have a long-term negotiations with the government, how we can operate between COVID situation. But unlike the online, the casinos are closed. So we have quite a big amount of employment in this business. More than 10,000 people are employed in land-based casinos. And unfortunately, all of them are just back home on unpaid leave because the situation is very unclear. And we don't even know, we don't really keep in touch with our customers because we don't have anything to say at this moment. Or another thing is we usually try not to be very interactive with customers because it's still land-based, and this is very the community looks at it as a very negative point of view. At some point, Georgia reopened everything locally. At some point, now we are back closing down. But at some point, when they opened everything, casino was left the only business not to operate and not to be open. And unfortunately, even the employees tried to strike and do their share to the government. But that did not help because this business is like the community looks at it as a very negative way. So they are like, most of the people are happy like that casinos are closed and not look at it from the other point of perspective where, for example, to tell you the tourist level in Georgia has been booming before COVID, as you might all be aware of. And a lot of tourists, like 10% of the tourists claim, and those are the ones who say it out loud, say that they come to Georgia only for gambling purposes. So if we compare that and put it into data, tourists who comes here for gambling, they also stay in the hotels and they also do their share of the tourism in this country. But unfortunately, people in society don't understand it that way and not look at it that way. And also casinos pay a lot of license fee to the government. If we take like the 4% of the total income goes from the only casinos license. But currently, as I know, 6 land-based casinos have been operating in Tbilisi, and 2 of them were unable to renew the license. One is currently planning to be on sale, and we don't know what it's going to be because how we can renew license. For casinos, this is the business to stay closed. It's quite expensive to stay closed, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge for you. It's the same in some markets here. Even in the UK, the land-based casinos are having a torrid time. MD in the land-based industry is having a torrid time. One point that I think was positive you mentioned there is the fact that there is association. So there's some information sharing. The employees, albeit protesting, there is a coming together to try and demonstrate the wider impact, from a societal point of view and an economic point of view as well. So hopefully, from a Georgian perspective, the government listens to you folks sooner rather than later. Just moving on, we
Thank
just
you.
had a quick question from one of our audience. I just wanted to reach out and ask the panel. So the question was, what is the top 5 most bet on football, soccer betting types after the first lockdown? Did we see any major changes in betting behaviour once live sport resumed, or was it pretty much the same? So do we see any differences in sort of bet types?
Talking about pre-match or about live betting?
I would suggest pre-match and live betting if you've got any information to share on that.
Just, I don't have exact statistics, but it's just in terms of feeling. And of course, we can't compare like ordinary football to what we produce. But I would say like the most popular markets is the total over-under and the handicaps. And then after all, it's games, probably then exact result or something like this. So, but this is, this is more fast velocity of a game. So probably people bet a little bit different. I know probably, Dennis, can you share from sports betting perspective? Is there any changes you noticed?
Yeah. Just I saw the question in the chat and opened the back office and checked that
That's nice.
Everything is back. Everything is back to the previous levels here. We speak about pre-match, then like the top is filled with the Champions League and England's Premier League. If we speak about live, that everything is full of tennis. So I believe that if I will check, and the KHL as well for the pre-match. So if I will check like January or February, maybe less tennis, but everything would be the same.
But in terms of market types, I believe the question was on what people bet.
Like betting tips. It's a bit. Yeah, but I believe that the patterns stayed as well, as you said, like over under total and like and that for sure, like a lot of public bettors who bet just like on 1x2.
It's like a quick check of your BI. Can you get that information fast enough?
Too many data.
It's always good to get the data. Just a couple of touch points that have come out, some of the conversation pieces there. Before we go on to sort of the responsible gambling, which I think is an important topic to address, I'd like to just raise something with you all. I mean, the unfortunate side of the COVID-19 is that it affects everyone. It does, and it ultimately affects people and people within the working teams. So I just wanted to sort of understand and maybe share with our listeners, how have your businesses adapted to having team members working from home? Have you seen productivity increase, decrease? Is it neutral? Is there any learnings that we can share insight-wise to our listeners on that topic?
Well, I can speak a little bit about that. As a development company, so we deal with software engineering, but also mechanical engineering. We have live dealers in the studio. We have management. And so there's a lot of different positions within the company that are structured differently. So our management communication did not suffer so much, as we were always quite flexible with our, with being in or out of the office. So we could do a lot of business while not in person. But a part of the business, which was very important for us, which is missing now, is expos. I take that as one crucial part of communication with our clients, and this was completely lost during COVID, and it's still not back. Otherwise, I don't think anything can completely replace the dialogue and speaking in person with your colleagues. And we tried as hard as possible to keep at least one day a week where we would just see each other and see how everybody feels about what has been done during online meetings or whatnot. The online conferences and calls have always been a big part for the company, being in global sales. So you're always speaking to clients from around the world. You're meeting them at expos, which is now gone. So it's only digital at the moment. But day-to-day stuff, I think it's very easy today with the technology available for the management part, but still nothing replaces at least a face-to-face once a week to see where everybody's at. I don't know. That's it.
Yeah. Anyone else get any comments on that? Because obviously, one of the aspects is, as you quite rightly pointed out there, is our industry is very much predicated on human interaction. It's human interaction either from a sales perspective, client, buyer, but also interactions with customers if you're a B2C operator there. Has there been any view taken within your business that sort of productivity from team members, whether they are CS, customer service, operations, trading, marketing, have you seen sort of productivity increase, decrease? Is it neutral? Is there anything you can share in that regard? The well-being of the employees. How important is that during these sort of continued lockdown situations?
A few words about sales in this situation, because everything, what we do, the first thing it's sales, and yeah, this is actually quite difficult, especially when you face a situation when you understand that it's better to have some kind of a deal on the table and probably meet people. Everything that we would do probably every 2 weeks is to go somewhere to build these relationships, because while March, April, we signed a lot of deals. Yeah, but it was very difficult in terms of communication, especially when it comes to legal parts. We don't have legal with us, but I'm sure everyone will understand. So yeah, this is difficult. One thing I want to touch real briefly is that our partners, company Fastbet, who organize all the events, they faced really difficulties because they need to, we do have this in the one facility, and then you need to bring people out of each other, and this was really a challenge to keep doing what you're doing to bring the events, but to make people to stay safe. And glad to say that we actually did very well, and we have no one sick.
I mean, that's really good to hear, Alex, because again, our industry is predicated on it's people that make the industry what it is. Really interesting, and thank you from one of our listeners. Really interesting question, and I'm going to pose this to you all. What were the major mistakes that you made during the first wave in spring, and what are you planning to do it differently, taking into account lockdown number 2? So what was if you wish to share that, what was the major mistakes that you made during the first lockdown 1.0?
I can start. I think the first mistake that we made as a company was not believing that this was serious enough that for at least sports betting was closing down for a while, and we didn't shift to casino products or virtuals or esports fast enough. So basically, we didn't predict that the entire industry of sports will just stop. Again, this is the first time in my life that I've seen the world completely stop. And I wouldn't imagine that back on March, I will never imagine that the Premier League would stop. And again, they stopped. And this was, we were so surprised that we didn't act enough, because we always thought, oh, it just will be 1 week or whatever. And it took 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. And then they come back just on this phase. And the only thing that we did was just stand still and waiting. And we should have reacted more fiercely, not in able to stop leaking, but changing the products and the cross-selling, completely make an 180-degree turn, changing from one offer to the other, and completely take, for example, poker. Poker was probably the biggest winner of COVID-19 product. Poker was a product that was on the downslide since the fierce regulations of the countries. And poker was, in my perspective, the biggest winner of COVID-19. Poker stars skyrocketed. GG Network completely went ballistic. Party poker went wild. So a product that was on the downslide since 2010 completely revolutionized. And at least in my company, we didn't take that seriously enough. We should have done it seriously enough. So for now, if there is a second wave where sports fully stopped, we are ready with esports, we are ready with poker, we are ready with casino, virtuals. I think that's the major difference that we did for the second wave. If the second wave, it's the same one where sports completely shut down. That's my view.
Yeah, Marcus, I can confirm the poker note you made. As Speed Project, my company also develops poker, and we run it in 3 locally licensed markets, and it went up 300% at least. And basically, right before you mentioned poker, I was thinking about our biggest mistake being not being prepared for such a big rise and taking advantage of, after the lockdown ended, for keeping, as our personal interest, for keeping as much of these active clients during the COVID after the lockdown actually ended. So what happened to us, we went 300% up and then back to normal right away. So we weren't ready, to engage those users, retain them better. And the same as you, it's hard to predict this instances, but it makes sense looking retroactively now, as poker is very social. And it's one point that can be taken out of everything about COVID, is that social aspects of every game are a big advantage. It doesn't matter if it's poker. Poker is by nature inherently social, but any other type of game and any other social aspect of the operation should be very, very crucial, and it will prevent it would mean a lot in similar cases.
Yeah, I think that's one of the important takeaways, for me and from an industry perspective, is that the innovation is really good. Those light bulb moments are exceptionally important. I think what's been demonstrated by COVID is that there's a lot of uncontrollables in the market, but in reality, we need to be more agile in our approach in terms of how we compensate for live sport, whether that's esports, visualizations, virtual sports, but in terms of just general human interest, which I think is really important to tap into. Player behavior, absolutely. Poker for me was might be the wrong way to describe it in such a torrid situation as COVID and the pandemic, but certainly poker and the poker operators and networks, they were one of the winners. And unfortunately, in human history, in these particular tragic events, there's sadly always winners and losers and opportunities and challenges. So certainly poker, I think, is something that the industry needs to keep a a finger on the pulse on for into 2021. And get back to a couple of points because we're sort of sadly moving close to finishing time. Responsible gambling, is a hot topic, quite frankly, globally. So in terms of the pandemic, we know there is a greater spotlight by regulators, in the CIS region and across the board. What have you done, within your respective businesses to, look at responsible gambling, in terms of the marketing, acquisition, the retention, the reactivation? Is that more front and center within your businesses now? What has really changed within your business as regards to responsible gambling? I'm keen to hear your views, even from a land-based point of view, operational point of view, supplier perspective. And they want to take that very hot topic up.
Well, for the way we look at responsible gaming, we try to implement it in as a core to our business, and we look at it as we try to look at it as the ethical regulator when we develop games, for instance. There's one thing about manipulating player behavior in order to optimize revenue. And on the other side, there's the responsibility for the actions you've caused. And when we say responsibility, it's exactly that. Are we able to respond to the changes which happened during COVID, during any of our mechanisms implemented in order to optimize engagement in the end? We're in the engagement business in the end. So it's sometimes feels contradictory that while you want to engage someone in more gambling, you'd like to keep them as safe as possible as well, because sometimes it looks like it contradicts, but it doesn't, in our opinion. And we, as I told you, we do also poker, so it's not only lottery games, but we see the lifetime player value increase when you take care of them and are able to respond in a way that they are not exhausted quickly, when they tilt less. And it's quite challenging. And what I'd like to see in the future is more AI used in optimizing the response to the threats of unhealthy gambling, and less use of AI to adapt their behavior to optimize revenue. And I'm saying this as it's a big challenge. But I think if we move towards that direction, and this considers both suppliers, land-based casinos, and labs as a market leader in Sweden, I think integrating the ethical regulator is the optimal economical. From economically speaking, it's optimal and better than what's trendy now, behavior manipulation. Just one point. It's I hope I got some insight in there.
Vedran, can I ask you a little bit?
Sorry, Alex.
Yeah. I just want to follow up with Vedran. So he said that they're doing obviously these lottery games, and now they do it automatically. But when you do selling this for third party, do you have any kind of, I don't know, marketing kit which will say, okay, you should say user after, I don't know, 100 spins to ban them from betting, or doing anything like that? I'm just interested because is it possible for you as a supplier?
Definitely, it's possible, and even more than that, you can go more in depth with the player actions to decide whether he should be careful about placing more bets. Like one of the mechanisms, I'm just speaking from concept still. It's not something that we currently implement, but we're heavily thinking about it. For example, is the ability to give the player a way to compare with other users on the same game, for example. So you can tell him, listen, you're playing more than 99% of other players. So you don't have to be, you can give him an option, and you should give him an option.
This is tricky.
So
this is tricky because now this work as gamification, and they want to be on the first one who played the best. That's used from the opposite way now.
Well, but still, you're still trying to implement some options which, if you tell the guy, listen, we don't want you playing anymore. It's very hard to tell where he comes from, and what's his bankroll, basically. Is he a millionaire? Or, I can't stop you. It has to be your decision.
Exactly.
But at least I can help you answer, maybe the question you ask yourself, where do I compare with others here? If I have millions, but I'm still a degenerate gambler, compared to everybody else, I might, say, okay, spending, 20K a week is actually not that good, even though I can afford it. But, so
I get it.
It's very tricky. Yeah, it's very tricky. I agree. I agree. It's still a concept, but something to think about.
I can continue
Marcus,
from
sorry,
a land-based perspective.
interrupting you. Go on.
It's okay. No, go ahead. So basically, it's been quite hard to promote the responsible gaming in Georgia because of a lot of people gamble here to live, and they believe that that's the only source of way to make money, to gamble, and then they have no jobs and they get loans to gamble. So basically, it's been quite hard, but some of the companies, especially online companies, starting promoting responsible gaming. But from a land-based perspective, we've been communicating with the government. We still think that for example, legal age to enter casino is 18. You can play slots and electronic roulette, and table games is 21. And we believe this age is quite low, to be honest. And also to take into consideration that, for example, outdoor advertisements, 40% of outdoor advertisements today are advertising casinos. So one good thing that happened with this COVID and the creation of the association, that association members decided that after all of this is over, hopefully soon, that we won't be advertising that much outdoor, and we will only try to advertise on touristic areas like airport, hotels, and places like that, because we don't believe that's such a big expenditure, and also it brings a feedback, and we also don't believe that it's good for kids to look at it, the banners and the entire country. Like you come to Georgia, and instead of seeing that this is a country of wine and etc., you just 40% of the banners are just advertisement of the casino. So basically that has been one good thing, that we believe that after the opening with the land-based casinos, we all decided not to compete with each other on an outdoor advertisement level, and start little bit, working on on a responsible level, let's say.
That's really good to hear, and share what's happening in Georgia, because I think, really great input from the panel. I think, COVID, as we know, has spotlighted, a lot of negatives in society. That becomes apparent to, the regulators and the gambling vertical. And really, the industry has made good strides forward, just not in the CIS region, across Europe, the UK, North America, at looking and centralizing responsible gambling, within the marketing operations, but more importantly, in the product development stage as well. And I do concur that I think, AI will be more prevalent in the identification and sort of risk profiling of players as they come into the platform, and hopefully that allows the industry to be more sustainable, because that's the key. It's providing sustainability into 2021. We've only got 10 minutes left, so I'm just going to wrap up with a few other questions before we invite some more question and answers from our listeners. So this is for everybody, so please don't all jump in. 2020, let's face it, has been horrific, but there's been some positives that have come out of it. For me, the industry has come together, which is great. People have come together. We're looking at solving various aspects, whether that's RG, whether that's product. It's clear we've become more agile in our approach and how we do business operations, which is great. But I have to look at the crystal ball. So what do we think 2021 is going to look like? Are we going to see a continuation of the challenges that we experienced in 2020? What do you think the future holds in 2021? Bit of an open-ended question, I know, but very keen to get your expert insight.
That's a very tough question.
May I start?
Yes, please.
Go on, Marcus.
Well, we do believe that I might guess that we now are more prepared than ever to face the true problem of COVID-19. At least in Europe, we managed to continue sports without people on the stands, which really sucks. And I don't know if this is something that we can continue much further, but I'll guess the industry will prefer to have it this way than no sports whatsoever. So what we will have 2021, if there is no vaccine soon enough, or if this problem doesn't evolve better, I think we will see a 2021 pretty similar to 2020 with no vaccine. I mean, so I guess at least for Q1 2021. We will face it the same way that we are facing 2020. So I'm really hopeful for Q3, Q4 2021, and I will say Q1 and Q2 will be the same as 2020. That's my view.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Anyone else has a
Marcus,
opinion?
Marcus shared more or less my vision. The only thing that I do not really believe that next year the vaccine could help us that much. I believe and I see that we will face some kind of a light in the end of the tunnel somewhere in the second half of the year. Quite hard to imagine for today how we as a whole world can run Olympic Games, how we can run the Euro. It's like even without having spectators, it's still like very unclear. We didn't have Ice Hockey World Champ this year. Next year still under big question. It's postponed to June, the first time ever. So sports is under the big question even without having spectators. Other than that, the guys who had a very diversified portfolio will win. Poker will continue to grow. Slots will grow. Live casino will grow, and the revenues will be there. So the good if the sports will finish on the same level as this year.
Okay.
I can continue from a land-based perspective, if possible.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, we don't believe that if the situation is going to change, like the vaccine is going to come soon and they open the casino, even in that case, I don't think casinos are ready to open, even if with the government permission. Because as I said, most of the casinos are based on, they make their income based on tourism. So if the borders are not open and everything is not back to old, it will be quite impossible to operate only on local market. Because of that, we don't know how many casinos will actually manage to renew the license, because we already know that 2 of the casinos have stopped, and we don't know if we will renew license or how it will be. to be honest. And plus, we believe that the COVID is just a beginning of the economical crisis that has to follow in this region, obviously in Georgia particularly. So we're still not looking at it very optimistic way. So.
Okay.
I can finalize with the joke from, there was a joke from April, you know, what leads of digital transformation of your company? So option 1 is CEO, option 2 is CTO, and option 3 is COVID-19. And I mean, everyone actually faced and have to hit the option 3 because there is no other option, in fact. So I believe we will be keeping digitally transformation of our companies. From our end, we'll be trying to deliver in as much as possible in terms of content and the stuff, and try to keep sports and some level. Definitely, when we look into Ukraine, it's not that optimistic because like people get sick and it's like enormous amount of people now, and we still don't have any kind of lockdown as in March. So no positive in terms of this region, unfortunately. But in general, I hope that we'll stick here and we here like for long. So.
Yeah.
Can I just add one sentence?
Yes, please.
The thing is, there's of course nobody can predict the future. Nobody can know exactly what's going to happen next year. But the stuff that we're discussing today goes beyond just COVID and will help any business to prosper and develop. And that's implementing an ethical regulator, bringing up the social aspect of gaming, and then, of course, digital transformation. All these three, and variety, of course. So we covered all these 4 points, and it doesn't matter what it'll be like in 2021 for COVID. If everybody keeps pushing for these 4 points, even in black swan scenarios, they can profit from that. And so it's only a process. There's no end goal for 2021. You just keep pushing, on things that are important, and you can be ready for any unpredictable event.
That's a really good summation, actually. And as I draw to a conclusion, before that, I would just like to, thank all the panelists, all our listeners as well. Certainly, 2020 has been a challenging time for everyone, but the key takeaways from our panelists and experts here is certainly digital transformation, diversification in terms of your product mix, variety in the business, looking at ethical RG as a cornerstone of that. Maka, I think there is going to be a situation economically that is very hard to predict, but as long as the industry in terms of supplier, operator, diversifies their risk, because there will be a economic crunch, most definitely. I think that the fact that unemployment rates are increasing, disposable incomes being hit, there is going to be an aftershock. That's my sort of prediction. I think there's going to be a lot of aftershocks coming in 2021. But it's very refreshing to hear all your viewpoints. And certainly as an industry, one of the key takeaways for me is that the industry is coming together. And that can be evidenced by the folks at SBC who are putting on these digital events. They're keeping us in touch with all those particular elements and fostering and bringing the platform together to vocalize all our concerns and how we can actually solve problems as an industry and move forward into 2021. So for me, I'm very optimistic. Would like to thank all our panelists again for their time, their detailed insight. We've got about 1.5 minutes on the clock, so I would invite our listeners, if there's any further questions you wish me to pose to the panel, please type in the chat box now. If not, it's been an absolute delight to be in this conversation with you all today. And please stay safe, stay healthy, and look after each other. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care.
I think we've just got